Hey, what's up everybody, dude? I always laugh in the intro so I can set the mood off like happy, but towards the ending I always get heated. But today we're talking about the OnePlus One in 2018. Now the OnePlus 6 just came out and everyone's doing videos on those and it's super saturated. I didn't want to do another OnePlus 6 video because I didn't even have one yet. So let's take a look back like 100,000 years ago and look at their very first flagship, the OnePlus One. Now this phone came out in 2014, which believe it or not was 4 years ago. And honestly, it doesn't look that dated at all. Now, first of all, 4 years really isn't too old, but it kind of is at the same time. Like it's in that weird spot. And at the time, I was a huge fan of the OnePlus series. They had the OnePlus One and I was like, dude, that's the craziest phone I've ever seen. And it was super competitively priced at the time. You know, it wasn't supposed to be like the most expensive thing ever. It was kind of like the Nexus series, but you know, from a different company. And I always liked the way this thing looked. And I still like the way it looks now. You know, it looks super sleek. And the bezels on the front are kind of thick. You know, they're actually very, very thick, but you do have the buttons on the bottom row, so they're not, you know, on the screen. At least this bezel on the bottom has some purpose to it. And the back of the phone actually had the sandstone finish, which looks super cool. You know, I love the way it looks, but for me using it, like, I honestly think it feels kind of uncomfortable, but I think that kind of varies per person, so I'm not going to, you know, dock it there. Now on the front, it has a 5.5-inch 1080p screen, which honestly isn't even too bad now. Now it's not perfect, and it is an IPS panel, so it's not OLED, but it's definitely not that bad, you know, especially for the price point. And considering how well the screen still looks, I'm pretty surprised that it's 4 years old. Now the cool thing about this phone is that it had CyanogenMod straight out of the box to start with, and the phone I still have now still has the CyanogenMod version on it, but it's not rooted and it's not custom ROM'd, which is super weird if you think about it. We're so used to seeing, you know, the custom ROM being CyanogenMod, even though CyanogenMod doesn't exist anymore. It's kind of weird that it came with it out of the box. But OnePlus had beef with CyanogenMod a long time ago, and OnePlus eventually made their own software called Oxygen OS, which was actually pretty good as well. I had that on the OnePlus 2. But just keep in mind that if you're not a fan of either, you can always throw another custom ROM on it as long as you root it, and you can even update it even more, because right now I have it on Android 6.0, and I'm not too sure how long Oxygen OS actually updated it for, but there are Android 8.1 ROMs out for it or whatever it is now, so I would definitely check those out if you're interested. Now the overall fluidity and everything still seems fine. It's not the fastest thing ever, and it shouldn't be because it wasn't the fastest thing at the time either, but opening apps and multitasking seems fine. It has 3 GB of RAM too, so it'll be able to hold a good amount of apps in the background. It also has a quad-core processor clocked at 2.5 gigahertz. Hopefully I said that right. You know, just looking at it, those aren't killer specs. I mean, there's probably budget phones now that have higher specs than this one, but in 2014, that was pretty impressive, especially when this phone was priced much lower than competitive flagships at the time. Now, gaming seems to be fine as well. I'm not a huge gamer, but I know a lot of you guys like hearing about it, but the games that I tested worked fine, and I didn't really run into any problems or any hiccups or anything. And the interesting thing, this phone doesn't really get that hot either when I'm gaming, so that's good. I always like seeing that. Now on the back, the OnePlus One has a 13 megapixel camera, and on the front it has a 5 megapixel camera, and the back camera isn't really that horrible, but it's not that good either. I mean, it can shoot quad HD video, and it can even shoot 1080p video at 60 frames per second, but I think the camera is probably the worst aspect of this phone. I don't even think it was on par with other 2014 flagships. Now, it wasn't supposed to be a flagship, and this phone wasn't supposed to be perfect, but it's not unusable, but I wouldn't take like precious photos on it. I mean, it is a camera, so it can take photos, but they're really not that good quality. Battery life is probably one of the better things about this phone. It's 3100 milliamp hours, but it's not removable, and in the last 4 years, the battery probably has degraded a ton, but if I wanted to, I could probably get a day out of it. I probably wouldn't be able to use it that much, but it isn't that bad. Plus, it's not the most spec heavy, it's not the most powerful phone ever, and the screen's only 1080p, you know, it's not quad HD or anything, so I think battery life is probably the better aspect of this phone. So to wrap it all up, is the OnePlus One still worth it in 2018? Now, if you want a phone that's mostly stock, it doesn't have horrible UI on it, has a lot of cool features built in, you know, has double tap to wake, you have the optional nav bar button, the navigation bar on the bottom if you want it, and all those cool things that CyanogenMod or Oxygen OS bring to it, but sacrifices the camera quality. And if you don't care about the fingerprint sensor or a fingerprint sensor on a phone, then this is a very good deal, you know, make a very good budget phone. But if you can spend a little bit more money, I would probably recommend you to get at least a OnePlus 2. I mean, that thing is not only more powerful, but that also comes with a fingerprint sensor and, you know, better specs as well. So yeah, I mean, the OnePlus One is still worth it in 2018. It's a decent phone and it still has at least a bit more life left in it. And guys, that is pretty much it. If you have any questions or you agree with me or disagree with me, leave it down in the comment section below. I read every single comment. Hit that like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. I mean, the love you guys show me is amazing and I appreciate all you guys and girls. Check out the links in the description as well. My second channel, my SoundCloud, my websites, all that stuff is down there. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys, and I hope I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.